Bingo, we're back, we're live, we're here on Think Tech. Think Tech now, Think Tech strong, Think Tech he said, she said, the other she said, they said, and our regular he said, she said person, Marianne Sasaki, who is also the host of Life and the Law on Wednesdays. Welcome to the show, Marianne.
Thank you.
I knew you'd
Glad
say
to
that.
be here.
Yeah.
Glad to see Carol here, too.
Carol Munley, our Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, and Special Correspondent for this He Said, They Said show. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're sad to report the events in Orlando yesterday. I'm calling the show Early Lessons of Orlando because we don't know enough to come to any final conclusions, but we can certainly react. And, the news is interesting. The news didn't cover it that much yesterday. Nobody knew much about it, but today it's starting to roll out in all the media. So, Marianne, in a word, what happened and what do you think of it?
Well, I think this is a hate crime that was perpetrated by a wannabe terrorist on an innocent group of people. I think they were very clearly targeted because they were gay, and it was a slaughter. I mean, he had a machine gun. There's so many things wrong happening at the same time. It's hard to settle on what single cause is wrong about this. There's so many: guns, homophobia, the rising influence of ISIS, just
anti-Muslim.
Anti-Muslim sentiment, mental illness, as you mentioned before. I mean, it's just an unbelievable melange of horrible factors.
Well, bottom line, though, is that some guy, slightly wacky, had access to guns, including assault rifles where you could spray bullets in every direction, and he killed 49 people, and then he was killed for 50. 53 were wounded, and 27 of them require multiple surgeries to get back. So this is the worst domestic attack of its kind that we've ever had.
Right.
Carol, where do you put this on a continuum?
Well, of course, as you say, it's the worst. So that means Newtown and the church in the East Coast and
San Bernardino.
Right, the Colorado Theater, and on and on and on. And this is the worst. But I'll tell you, it is so horrific. And yet there is a part of me that says, I'm a little bit disheartened that I feel, oh no, another one, but another one. We're almost getting used to it on a news cycle that something horrible like this is going to happen. Part of me also says, I'm so glad I live in Hawaii because I feel immune, but I may not be. I'm not sure. So it might be a false sense of security that we here in Hawaii would not be subject to that kind of.
Well, remember, we had the Xerox incident a few years ago. A lot of people were killed in that.
Long time ago.
Yeah, it's got to be 15, 20 years ago. Yeah.
At least, yeah.
And that was pretty serious. Mm-hmm. I think the common denominator for all these is guns.
Guns, yes. Well, I don't know what the NRA's argument is pro assault rifles. I don't think any good can be done with an assault rifle at all. It's not a hunting weapon. Yet they support them. They support the sale of them. They fight tooth and nail to have them on sale. And I just don't understand what the argument is there. Do you know what the argument is in favor?
You know, I was going to ask you that question because I truly do not know how you can justify assault weapons,
right,
or for that matter, semi-automatic pistols. I think the country is rife with these weapons now.
Right.
It's not that the NRA has, just recently decided to support these weapons. It's been supporting these weapons for years, decades, and increasingly these weapons have found their way into commerce.
Right.
They found their way into these trade shows. Remember all that hubbub about trade shows and gun stores? Annie Get Your Gun was a store where a couple of these weapons were acquired. Either this one or, the Times had this article with all of these things that Carol was describing, and the scenario was very similar about the weapons. And it seems to me there are far too many weapons in this country, more than in any other country you can think of. And they're out there in the public under the guise of this is what we need under the Second Amendment to protect
the Second
ourselves.
Amendment. That's what.
But come on now. I mean, if you give me 1,000 people and you just permeate them with guns, they're going to shoot each other. That's what happens.
That's right.
And it's not for a good reason. It's not for self-defense. It's not to protect them
It's
against the
business.
Russians or something.
I think it's big business. I think the NRA is supporting big business. They're
Well,
supporting.
the NRA is a very effective lobby.
Yes, it's a
And
very
this
effective
goes
lobby.
This goes to
And
super PACs.
well-funded.
This goes to the whole lobbying system. This goes to
Right.
the core of the way government works, that we have not put a stop on this. What did you say, 15 different incidents? The Times had them all in
That the
detail?
president-
That the
yeah.
president has had
Just
to
during the
address.
president's
Yeah.
term of office.
So, I mean, what's happening is, if I may, it's getting worse.
Yes.
It's getting worse, and now it's clear. You said it could never happen in Hawaii. Oh yeah, I mean, San Bernardino. Who knew? Orlando. Who knew? Disneyland. I mean, it's just not likely to happen in these cities, and yet it happens.
Yes.
So likelihood doesn't count. It could happen bloody anywhere. Excuse
I
the
think so.
expression.
And one of the police officers was talking about how Orlando, there's lots of people going through Orlando because of Disneyland and Disney World and so on. And it's a very permeable border. And I don't think Hawaii is pretty permeable too. There's lots of people coming and going. It's a, national, international kind of crossroads. Not to say that I think it can happen here. I don't think it doesn't seem to be as easy access to guns here as there is on the mainland. I mean, Florida is a state in which you can get guns easily.
Yeah, remember that fellow up on Tantalus when
Yes.
shooting? He was a mental case.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel that our society accepts guns. Hey, don't forget television. That's a sub-issue here.
Right.
It's not that this person, 29 was he, was influenced by ISIS, which he was, but there was other influences that he was exposed to, and one of them was the hate thing. Another was just the use of guns in general. They permeate our entertainment industry. Just watch, see how many people get shot or killed any given night on network TV. It's amazing. It's more than it ever was. And we talk about it, we complain about it. We try to stop it, but it doesn't stop. It's getting worse. And you say, what Trump said, we need more guns. We got to defend ourselves from the likes of this guy, which is really loony.
There's no defense against it, unless everybody carries an assault rifle, and I don't
And
want to
they
live
all
in a
wind up
society.
shooting each other.
Yeah,
You
necessarily.
get hot under the collar one day and you shoot somebody.
right.
That's what he says. And Hillary Clinton, of course, says, we're going to put some controls on this. I say, get rid of all the guns. We don't need them.
I agree with you.
I'm on the far side of Hillary Clinton. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're so far from there. I mean, over the course of the past 30 years, there's been such a push for, because of the NRA and the lobbying, that the gun control laws have gotten looser and looser. The ones that we had expired, and they haven't put them back into place. So I think we're very far from even the gun control that we experienced in the 70s and 80s. It's just,
Well, that's a rhetorical question. How many people have to die before we do something?
Right. Oh, I agree, except that I'm going to say I don't want us to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I think there are some legitimate uses for people who have guns, whether it's for sports and legitimate use of sports. It's just the same as having a car that goes 100 miles an hour. But if you pair that with, let's say, alcohol, then the community is at risk. So what are you going to do? You're going to outlaw alcohol? We haven't.
No.
You're going to outlaw cars that go fast? No. But you're going to have responsible people and rules and guidelines that say you do not combine
Okay, how
the
do you
two.
have responsible
Right, you don't
people?
have to have a driver's test to have a gun. You don't,
Right. True. So maybe we need more controls. I'm absolutely in agreement that certain types of guns we shouldn't have, whether it's assault rifles or semi-automatics. But to say that people who legitimately have a interest in using guns in a sport, I don't.
If you're on a team, say in college or high school, and you're on the rifle team, you get a rifle that has one bullet in the chamber, and it's a bolt action, and you can shoot one at a time. You want to shoot a second one, you got to open it up, put another one in. It's hardly you can't kill 49 people with such a thing.
So would you outlaw that gun?
No.
That rifle?
No.
Okay, but you did say you were going to.
Well, okay, I'll modify.
Okay.
But the point is that
Are you in favor of muskets, Jay?
Can you find me one?
And actually, stage in Hamilton, they didn't use muskets last night.
Oh, Hamilton, oh, God. Anyway, that's another show, another time. But the interesting, the duel between Burr and Hamilton, that was really, didn't know about that. I studied history, I didn't know about this stuff. He learned, what's his name,
Manuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll give you that, for sports, so forth. But there's a huge difference between my bolt-action target rifle, and
An assault weapon.
An assault weapon.
Absolutely, I agree.
There's no justification
No
for an
justice,
assault weapon,
right.
none.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to use. It's not like the Russians are coming. You don't need that. You're not the army. You're not the militia. We don't want you to be the militia, and we don't want you to have guns that can be used in crimes. So it's so easy to make a rule and say no on this side and yes on that. I mean, all these crime and assault rifle type weapons have to go. They have to go immediately. It should be a felony to possess one. All you got to do is change the law in Congress. I mean, if you didn't have the NRA, we would have such a law in Congress.
But they have too much money and too much power.
So let me ask you, what is the role in state law? Does the state have any legitimate way of limiting access to certain types of weapons?
I think I think
there are state laws.
Yeah, I think depending on the state, but I still think the lobby's so strong that people are unwilling to take it on. Take on the lobby. I just want to say something about the community that was targeted in this. This is a community, that sustained violence before. I mean, there's been violent acts against the LGBT community as long as I can remember. And this type of homophobia, although it seems irrational and out of the ordinary, it really isn't actually. I mean, it's really rife in society, and people, I guarantee you, will discount this because the victims were homosexuals, were gay. They will just say, that I would never be in a gay club. You go to a gay club, it's a club, whatever, and it's devastated the LGBTQ community in Honolulu. Let me tell you, it's just everybody is just.
We've seen the Trump campaign try to gin up, I mean, whether it tries, I guess it does try, to gin up, animosity and, in fact, violence.
Right. Well, the entire right does.
And I think it cultivates that, this campaign cultivates that, and he's trying to find disaffected people. And this guy was obviously, and 10 feet tall, he was disaffected. But do you attribute this, or the phenomena that we saw come up yesterday, do you attribute this to Donald Trump?
No. You mean the fact that this one lone gunman did what he did to Donald Trump? No, I think he was, whether it's mental illness or a combination of this extremist loyalty to whether it's ISIS or whatever. No, I don't think that Trump.
Donald Trump says he's going to ban all Muslims, right? And I don't think Donald Trump is. I agree with you. I don't think he's responsible for this. But he makes a statement that he's going to ban all Muslims. So you have somebody who maybe is on the brink, somebody that's toying with the idea of extremism. This is just enough to ignite that fire. That's just saying. I don't think he's responsible, but I think the kind of talk that is acceptable. People seem to agree with him and want to ban Muslims, which would have, by the way, done nothing in this case because this guy was born in New York, lived in Florida. I think he creates an atmosphere of hatred, and other.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And, well, it's part of the disaffected thing. He may have nothing to do with ISIS, really. He says he's loyal to it, or says he believes in it, or whatever he said, and he made a call, right there in the process. But he didn't have any instructions. I think we're satisfied of that. The FBI is satisfied of that. The problem is that we have people who are disaffected, and we have ISIS, and ISIS is trying to recruit them.
Yeah.
Philosophically, psychologically.
Right. They're saying it's okay. Go do this. Go do this in your community. You don't need the training in the United States. You don't need ISIS training. There's so many guns. Anybody can get their hands on them. So it's not like you need to be trained in them. And ISIS is saying yes. Go out in your community. Choose these soft targets. They're called soft targets. Innocent civilians, groups of innocent civilians, and just kill them, like in Paris, just
The
mow them down.
brutality is incredible. I mean, it's like when you shoot a gun these days, you think of all those television programs where the guns went off, people were shot, and the hospitals can fix them. Modern medicine can fix them, but in fact, it's mayhem.
These
It's
people
like
were
bloody,
destroyed.
awful mayhem.
Yeah.
I mean, hamburger, and I don't understand. Well, I don't understand why. We can get to this after the break. But I don't understand why television, after all this discussion for the past 30 years, is still pumping out, 15 or 20 murders while you watch every evening. Can we do anything about that? Rhetorical.
All right.
We're going to take a break. You'll see. When we come back, we're going to address that question. This is He Said, She Said, They Said with Marianne Sasaki, Carol Monley. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Stephen Katz, and I'm the host of Shrink Wrap, which comes to you live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com, and then it's repeated again whenever you want if you go to the website. On our show, we will be talking to all different kinds of therapists, psychologists, psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, people who talk about the mind, the brain, and about different ways to find happiness. I myself am a marriage and family therapist in practice here in Hawaii, and I hope you will join us because I've got a lot to learn, you've got a lot to learn, and it's a great ride. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, which streams live on thinktechhawaii.com, uploads to youtube.com, and broadcasts on cable OC16 and Alelo 54. Great content for Hawaii from Think
We're
Tech.
back, we're live with He Said, She Said, They Said, Marianne Sasaki, Carol Monley, talking about early lessons of Orlando. So no need to commit. We have to see this unfold.
Yes.
So what do you think about television and video games, which for the most part, the most popular ones, the ones that reach hundreds of millions of kids and adults, are violent. And you get to shoot guns on your video games. You get to kill people, watch them die.
That's how you keep score.
Yeah.
You keep
yeah.
score by the number of people you
And then
kill.
one day it's not a video game anymore, it's an
Right.
assault rifle and you're holding it and you're disaffected and you let go. Your brain has been through those channels before.
Right.
But I would say that the millions and millions of children and young adults, and now grown adults who have played with those video games all these decades now, the percentage that ends up being like this person who kills people is very, very, very small. So you have to look at other motives or other reasons, like whether it's mental illness
Right.
or some extremist view. So I don't think you can hook it on just the
Okay.
fact that they may have grown up in a culture that enjoyed video games with a lot of violence
And television.
and television.
But
Right?
I don't know, I don't think that the rise of violence in our society, and there's clearly a rise, is unrelated to movies and television, the depiction of violence. I think there's some correlation. I don't know what the correlation is, but they certainly have gone hand in hand. The chart, the lines in the chart parallel each other. So
Okay,
there's some
what
connection.
about the media, okay? Now we know that, if you're unstable about yourself, one thing you might glom onto is being famous.
Yes,
Being
absolutely.
known worldwide. And a lot of people, terrorists included, maybe especially included, and a lot of people do this kind of violence. They want to be on the air.
The 15
Right.
minutes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they want to have their moment of fame.
Well, they're famous
So-
and famous in heaven too. That for this deed, they're going to be rewarded. They're not even just merely famous.
72 virgins.
Right, exactly.
That's quite a few. But my point, though, is the media sucks right into this. Just the way the media sucks into Donald Trump, it sucks into these guys. And it's very clear and predictable. This fellow decides he's going to walk into that bar at 2 o'clock in the morning. He knows for a fact that whatever happens, his name will be memorialized forever.
Right.
Can't we stop that? Can't we do something to modify that in a perfect world, or maybe in an imperfect world? In the George Orwell, 1984, what would George Orwell do with total power over the media? Would he say, don't print that? Forget the First Amendment, don't print that. It's too dangerous to have that, filtering through our society where every nutcase feels that he has his 15 minutes of fame.
But I think that a lot of media now is aware that they will not promote the name of the perpetrator now. They often say we don't want to participate in giving that person glory. So I have seen that.
So that
whether there is a
helps.
recognition that they are part of the problem in publicizing and giving some fame to that person, that they're holding back.
Is it okay, though, that they publish all the details? You know, we're going to know a lot about this guy.
We are, and part of it, and as we know, we're viewer-driven. The more hits we get, the more views we get.
Right here at Think Tech.
Exactly. And it's the same with the mainstream media. So they do analysis. What's going to sell? As you always say, what? Sports, weather, accidents,
Crime. The big one.
Exactly. And so therefore they increase their traffic, their viewership. And the
Make
more
money.
they can, exactly, the more they can detail another channel by the gorier the details, the longer the coverage, the deeper the investigation. So maybe we've created this monster ourselves.
Well, I think it's part of it's a First Amendment balance thing.
Absolutely.
But I mean, for me, it was me, and I was George Orwell, and I had, this fictitious kind of authority to prevent this in whatever way, I could, by power. And I would say we don't print them, we don't talk about them.
Well,
We just make him go away, and we find the guy, and we do what we have to do, but we don't make him feel he's going to get publicity.
they could exercise some self-restraint, because I probably watched 20 or so hours of this on cable TV, and
Sure.
they have nothing new to say, and they just sort of
They
keep
repeat it
repeating
over and over
again.
It's
And-
the Orlando show.
Yeah.
But in this case, several of them know that these perpetrators know that they're going to get killed in the process.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
therefore, their glory is more of a legacy after death.
Yeah.
So
Martyrdom.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But martyrdom works if you don't think your death is painful. And you don't. You watch the television, you see, well, people get killed, they fall down, they go away. It doesn't hurt.
But I think we need to go back to the individual involved and the mental process that one goes through, because not the normal person would go through that process, even though he or she may have grown up with violent television shows and guns in the home and access to
I think
of
it's a
that.
really good point. I mean, do we have a country where we have not taken the time to deal with mental illness?
Oh, absolutely.
And do we have, more? I remember, I always talk about this, that back in the day, in, say, 1960, 70, there were a lot of shrinks out there. There are very few shrinks these days, it seems to me.
Because healthcare doesn't pay for it.
Healthcare doesn't pay for it.
adequate mental health
So what we
care.
have is a population which is being, turned by the media, trained, if you will, by the media, which doesn't have any fallback for any economic level, unless you have the money, to go to see a shrink and get your problems worked out.
Right.
And as a result, it's just statistical, but there are more people out there with problems that haven't been worked out.
Oh, yeah.
And more people that should be on some kind of sedative type drug that are not. and in a society which is more stressful all the time.
but also more complex. And so that I'm not sure that the therapists and the analysts who have been trained 10, 20, 30 years ago are equipped to deal with the 27-year-old today who has so many more multiple so many more multiple factors that are affecting him. In this case, he's Muslim, and he, has allegiance to ISIS, and he does have access to guns and assault weapons. So it's a little more complicated than the old days, the good old days when the therapist had to deal with.
What would you do,
simple
in a
issues.
humanitarian sense, what would you do to raise the level of mental health in our complex society?
Well, education, and I guess it starts early. It starts in grade school.
And it starts for all economic groups, whatever it
Oh,
is,
absolutely.
completely democratic.
Well, it's
Yes,
got to be
everybody gets it.
destigmatized. I
And-
mean,
and
it's
it-
totally stigmatized. So
Right, and I
nobody,
don't think it's necessarily a formal, you need to see a doctor and you need to get on medication. I think it's almost an awareness at the level of nursery school, grade school, kindergarten, high school, where even teachers and counselors are aware of, because we find so many of these assailants are young people, that signs may
They're
have
young
been.
men.
Yes,
They're all young men.
yes.
That's
That-
true. We haven't seen this by a woman.
Nope.
That's
There was
true.
a couple.
You think it's
The
going to...
wasn't the Santa Barbara, not
well,
Santa Barbara.
there was,
Yeah,
she was
Santa
the
Barbara,
wife.
the wife was involved.
And then there's something a long, long time ago in, I think it was Ireland. But typically they're...
Exception is it?
Disaffected young men who have not found a place in society or feel wronged by their place in society and act out violently against what they view as, the perpetrators.
Okay, I want to make us the kings and queens now. We got a couple of minutes left here. So what do we do from what we know today, the day after? Do we change things? Do we change the gun laws? Do we change the hate crime laws? Do we change the laws about, I don't know, the media or games or TV? Do we change the laws about people coming in from immigration laws? And who is this all going to benefit in the election? So final thoughts. Go for it.
Well, change, we all would like to change, but can I personally affect change? I don't know. I'll do my best. I think tolerance is really important. Preaching tolerance, living tolerance is really important, living by example. By being tolerant, therefore, all differences we can live with, and we can see that someone like this assailant had a problem with tolerance. Will it affect the elections? I hope it does.
You've been talking to Mary Ann, haven't you?
We're the same cult. We're the same gender.
Right. I hope it affects the election in the way that I think it ought to, but who knows how, what people will think and what people will focus on. But I agree with Carol about tolerance and understanding it could happen to any of us. These are our brothers and sisters. Even, and this is going to sound outrageous, but even this young Muslim man is our brother and sister. I mean, he needed to get help. Undoubtedly, there were people who failed him along the way because his father seems to have known him fairly well, and he needed to get the help he needed as well. So the only thing that can combat this is love. I mean, it sounds so corny, I know, like a Beatles song or something.
No,
but
it's not corny. And I heard the remarks by the mayor of Orlando yesterday. He must have used that word 50 times.
But it's true.
He was saying that this is an opportunity for us to reaffirm our moral position, reaffirm our community togetherness and our love for humanity. And that makes us a better people, a better place, a better culture.
I think so. I think that's how we're supposed to be, and we're tested, and it's how we react to the test. Do we go out and try to ban people and try to give everybody guns, or do we say, let's get people help, let's make maybe homosexual, gay people more integrated in the community so they're not targeted for violence, they've been historically targeted for violence,
Yeah. In a funny way, this is a statement in favor of tolerance.
Absolutely.
I hope it makes us all feel more tolerant.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Mary Ann Sasaki. Thank you, Carol Munley. He said, they said, she said, he said. Early lessons of Orlando. We'll discuss this again as time goes by. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay.